Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. My name is Leon Jones, and I got a good one for you tonight here on my scam series. Now, what I'm going to talk about tonight is college tuition scams. Now, within college tuition, there's going to be subgenres as well, like the curriculums, how college indoctrinates students. Now, I went to college myself, and I will be honest with you, till I even found out about YouTube, there were things that I didn't even know in college. In fact, I even went to an HBCU called Virginia Union back in 1983. You know what was never mentioned to me? And that was an HBCU. Never heard anything about Malcolm X. We always heard about Martin Luther King. Now, I didn't know too much about Martin Luther King, except for what I read. Now, one must understand just because you read something, that doesn't mean that it's true. There are a number of sources out there that people have their own opinions. There's a lot of rhetoric going on out there. And that rhetoric, particularly from the progressives in this country, has fed into colleges. In fact, I've done a few videos on the 5 power conferences of society. Now, if you don't know what they are, I'm going to tell them to you right now. There's government, because government puts out all the policies. There's jobs. Jobs have all these programs, such as DEI. Then there's media. Media is controlled by the left wing in this country. Then religion. That's right. Religion. And there is a fifth one: media, religion, and there's education. That's the fifth. Education, media, religion, government, and jobs. Those are the 5 power conferences of society. And the reason why they are the 5 power conferences of society, because they are the social infrastructure that builds society. And if you look at it, all of your rhetoric comes those 5 powers of society. Now, if I drew a Venn diagram, you would see how they are all related. That's where progressivism comes from. Because from your college, everything spreads out. Now, that's the overview of why I believe college is a scam, because it's more of an indoctrination factor. But the real scam comes from what you're paying for college. See, one thing college does not tell you when you actually enroll in college, tells you don't go to a community college. Now, the reason why college is so expensive today is because it's basically subsidized by loans. Now you have Sally Mae and you have these other loans, and you have financial aid. You have people getting grants. Now, grants, you don't have to pay back, but loans, you do have to pay back. And the more financial aid the college delivers, the more debt students are going to be in. In fact, a lot of the degrees you have to understand. And even, I'm going to shake things up a little bit, even engineering degrees. You think about it. A lot of our parents taught us in order to make it in society, you have to go to college. But what they didn't tell you is we don't need college if we know how to use our hands, because our parents, particularly because I'm a Gen Xer, a lot of information comes from your late silent generation individuals, because my parents are from the silent generation to the early baby boomer generations. And then you get down into early Gen Xers. Now, fortunately for myself, I never listened to a number of individuals, particularly when it comes to politics, from the silent generation or the early baby boomers, particularly the black ones. Why? Because they all vote for one party, and that's the Democratic Party. And they don't have individualized thinking. Shout out to Brother Minister Jap for actually mentioning that. You have a lot of these old black people out there, like Maxine Waters. They all went to college. They're all in Congress, but nothing's going to change because they are still running "We Shall Overcome," and everything is about racism, identity politics. That's how far that goes back. Now, college, when I talk about the real scam, it's the tuition. College is very, very high, but the education is lackadaisical. In fact, I remember if you went into engineering, you had 130, 140 credits, which is almost at master's level. Well, they cut a lot of that out to put in all this other stuff to make you well-rounded, but that doesn't make you well-rounded. That's more of an indoctrination. But all this humanities, now I believe, okay, you need one English class and a technical writing class and some math and science for engineering. But they don't put anything in college curriculums like finances. You need that in the real world. But that's all besides the point. But you think about the astronomical tuition. And not only do you pay tuition, you pay fees. And the fees are per credited hour. Okay, let me give you an example. I looked at the University of Maine, and I actually put in just 7 credits. Now, 7 credits was about $4,200. Now, it didn't include the fees, but I know there are fees there. But for 7 credited hours, that's $4,200. Now, when you take courses online, there's a fee per credited hour for that. It's called a technology fee. Some of these technology fees may be $90. So colleges are making big money off of the online students because they tack that technology fee in. And now I know you need the technology fee to run Canvas and Blackboard and Brightspace. Yes, you have to keep the platform running. But to me, that is an awful lot of money, because when you get a degree, and I'm talking about in anything, you're going to have high debt, especially if you went to Harvard or MIT or Cal Berkeley. And the reason why college is a big scam, it's not just the tuition, it's the ROI. How long does it take for you to see a return on your investment? Many students graduate with debt from this high tuition, and everything is under the United States Department of Education. Now, what I'm going to tell you today is, if you want to keep your tuition low, some of you might not like to hear this, don't get financial aid. In other words, don't get it in the form of loans. How you can go to college without getting loans is, no, it's a long shot for some. Apply for scholarships. also apply for grants, Pell Grants. You don't have to pay back a Pell Grant. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you though. You make sure you use that Pell Grant for your tuition. See, what a number of college students do is once their tuition is paid and the Pell Grant gives them more than their tuition, well, they get a check. Now, what you could do with that check is spend it on books. But really, right now, books, unless they're hard copy in a bookstore, you can go to Amazon, you can go to Vital Source and buy ebooks. You can buy books off of eBay. You can buy books off of Barnes and Noble, if Barnes and Noble is still in business. Or a better way to erase debt is go to a community college. I'll give you an example. If you want to be an engineer and you want to get into school like Purdue, and Purdue was right around $336 a credit an hour. Now, Purdue is very, very slick. They will tell you we freeze tuition. Well, let me tell you the game that they play. And I'm not knocking Purdue. I went to Purdue. What Purdue does is, okay, they freeze the tuition. They freeze the tuition at the per credited hour rate. But here's what's very slick about it. They may bundle everything. Now, and it depends on which Purdue campus you go to, because you can get a Purdue degree if you go to Purdue Fort Wayne, if you go to Purdue Northwest. Those are known as satellite campuses. Yes, you're not going to be called a Boilermaker, or you'll be called something else, Pride. What's the name of that elephant? A Mastodon. But regardless, that Purdue degree is the same Purdue degree that you get at main campus. Okay, you might not have all the festivities. And I actually thought when I went to Purdue Northwest, took some courses there in Northwest Indiana, to me, that was, especially if you were a minority, that was a hell of a lot better than the main campus. I mean, they had a lot of students at Purdue Northwest. And Northwest, and I'm picking on Purdue right now, Northwest has two campuses, one in Westville and one in Hammond. The bottom line is, well, one in Hammond was great. The one in Westville was a little more laid back because it had less population and it had less majors. But what I'm saying is, you go to a school like that, a satellite campus, you're going to get the same type of degree as if you went to the main campus. And I'm telling you this because you're not going to pay as much money. See, what Purdue does, they make you pay almost full price for 8 credits or more. Now, why is that a scam? I'm going to tell you why that's a scam. Because you're not a full-time student at 8 credits. You're a full-time student at 12 credits. So anything below 12, you should be paying for a credit per hour basis. That's known as credit, dollar per, or cost per credit. That's a part-time cost. Anything under 12 credited hours is part-time. And when Purdue says, okay, we put a freeze on the tuition, oh, at 8 credits, they tell you you're going to pay $5,280, which is ridiculous. That is a scam, in my opinion. Why? Because they basically took everything and banded it together. That's not the way you band it together. What you need to do, if you're a college, if you're going to college, if you look at that, And let's say you're going to be an engineer or a business major, you need to turn to, and a lot of people criticize the community college system, but I'm going to tell you something. If you go to a community college, certainly they don't offer as much financial aid, but you might not need as much financial aid. You can still get scholarships if you go to a community college. But here's what you have to do. At a community college, you can pay based on a payment plan. And where you pay $300-400 a credit to go to one of these big universities, you could be paying between $130 and $150 a credit if you go to a community college. And the courses are the same. And what makes it a scam as well, you pay a lot of money for these courses in college, and you have auditoriums of 300 and 400 students, especially in the 100 and 200 level courses. I know when I took a couple of physics courses at the University of Maryland College Park, it's 300-400 people in a class. And then you had TAs who taught the labs. Now, a TA is a teacher's assistant. And what that TA is doing, probably a student that's getting a little money to teach because they're in the doctoral program. Because when they finish that program, they're probably going to be a tenured professor if the job is available. So the reason why I'm saying utilize the community college system, because a lot of students will tell you, or a lot of these administrators will tell students, oh, well, we won't take that course. Oh, they'll take that course. Or the course is 10 years old. You present a syllabus, you present that you can do that course, like calculus course. They'll tell you, well, calculus 20 years ago isn't the same as it is now. Yes, it is. The only difference is you might be using a computer, but integrals haven't changed over the years. And see, colleges will tell you that because here's the scam. They don't want you to go to another school. Why? Because that's money that they're losing. This is why they want to keep giving you that financial aid. And if students do that, they'll come out with less debt. And if you utilize the community college system properly and you want 2 or 3 degrees from college, well, it's much easy to pay them out of your pocket. Now, of course, some people can't pay them out of their pocket. You have college work study. But see, some of the students don't even use the money that they get toward tuition. College work study is supposed to be for tuition. Now, I know they don't give you a lot of money, but they give you some money. And to me, the big scam is when you are a transfer student. My goodness, they will send you to Mars when it comes to courses. And generally, I'll be honest with you, colleges don't like transfer students. They don't. Why? Okay, you have a curriculum. You take that curriculum and you took classes elsewhere. Because a transfer student will come in, especially if they've already taken the basic courses, that's less money that they get. See, colleges are all about money. They're not about teaching you. You have to teach yourself. And even as an engineer, and we've been indoctrinated that we can go to college and get a degree and work for somebody. That's the problem. College does not teach any entrepreneurship. It does not really teach you anything about thinking on your own. You got to be able to think on your own because some of these instructors, they're communist thinking professors, they're liberal professors. You don't have too many conservative professors, but I know when you go into the humanities or the social science department, a lot of those professors, that's where you get a lot of your social justice warriors from the women's studies courses, the sociology courses, because they're brainwashed. And this is why you hear on television your Joy Reids and a number of your other uh, news individuals. They went to these colleges. They got brainwashed, and they're passing that brainwashing on to everybody else. But a lot of these individuals who take those curriculums in college, they have a lot of debt. And basically, the scam is this, before I get into the video. The scam is the loans. That's the big scam. But sounds good to get that financial aid. See, the big thing is, oh, we'll give you these loans plus a Pell Grant, and you don't have to pay any tuition. You're not paying any tuition now, but those loans you have to pay back. There are students who have $200,000, $300,000 worth of guaranteed student loan debt. That's because they didn't know. You see, if you utilize the community college system and you see the college that you want to transfer to, because you might not get into a Purdue or MIT, so what? But if you get the community college, you get an associate's degree, you already got the paper. Again, you get an associate's degree, you got the paper, less. And you got all the classes out of, well, you know what a bachelor's degree is anyway? It's a bullshit degree. A lot of the courses that you take, I know as an engineer, they're supposed to be foundation courses. It's all bullshit. Here's why it's bullshit. Because I know in an engineering curriculum, it's a certain set of courses that you need. You'll never use those courses. I've been out of college, and I'm talking about with the math, the baccalaureate level for years. I've never used calculus. Do I know how to do an integral? Yeah, but the calculator can do that for you. See, basically all that math and that science, particularly if you're an engineering major, you learn that because they want your curriculum to be ABET accredited. Yeah, ABET stands for Accreditation Board for Engineering Technologies. It's based out of Baltimore. It's a programmatic accreditation that engineering technology, and some of these other science programs, and there's EAC of ABET, but all the math that you take within these ABET curriculums, it's geared to help you, or supposed to help you pass the fundamentals of engineering examination. But again, even when you're an engineer, you don't necessarily need the PE. It's good to have it, particularly if you are in civil, especially if you're working with infrastructure, but only a certain amount of individuals are going to pass the test. You have mechanical engineers, you have electrical engineers who are making money, and they don't have that PE. And basically, a PE is good if you want to sign off on plans. Now they have the PMP certification. Certainly, those are good. But those are good when you work for somebody. But now, if you have your own business, they will be great. Why? Because you have the credentials. See, I like credentials working for myself, but for somebody else, guess what? You have all the credentials, but you are still an employee and you still have college debt because you have a number of programs out here in college. And here's where they get you. If you go into the saturated programs like your social science programs or even your law programs, oh, people will go get their bachelor's degree, their master's degree, and even their doctor's degree, their PhD. Well, that's even more and more and more debt. And colleges want you to keep coming back, so you keep paying out of your pocket. And they want you to get more and more aid. Well, when you just rely on financial aid to go to college, it makes you lazy because you don't look at other sources that you can use, like a college work study, which that's part of financial aid, but like saving up some money, like going to a community college. See, a lot of the scams, oh, college does a good job of selling you their campus, especially during orientation. But it's not what it seems. And then you get into classes. Heck, a lot of students cheat anyway because the class that they're taking, they don't really need. They're forced to take it. So what I'm going to do, before I continue, I'm going to show you, I'm going to go ahead to the article. And this is about a tuition phishing scam. Now, I've been doing phishing a lot. Well, get a load of this. Last few months, independent schools have seen an uptick in online phishing scams that target parents by offering tuition discounts. The scams are sophisticated enough to have ensnared parents who then pay tuition to the scammer instead of the school. So schools are encouraged to be increasingly vigilant and to assist families in avoiding such scams. So what is a tuition phishing scam? Because basically this video is about tuition scams. Well, a phishing scam, according to the FTC, is an online scam that targets consumers by sending them an email that appears to be from a well-known source, then asks the consumer to provide personal identifying information, payment, or other access to the consumer's accounts. Now, this recent scam is designed to convince parents to make tuition payments to the scammer by offering a discounted or special rate. Now, these scams have become increasingly sophisticated with a spoofing of a school's text, email, or other message format to look like it is originating from a legitimate school account. In this instance, the correspondence will often purportedly be from the director of admissions and financial aid or registrar. Now, you have an admissions when you fill out an application. They read everything, they pass it around to see if you meet the classes. And then once you're accepted, you basically sign a letter of acceptance if you're going to be accepted. See, another part of it is you have to pay an enrollment fee. And some enrollment fees are $400 as well. That can also keep students from going to school. And then the registrar. What's the registrar? Well, the registrar is the one that deals with all of your records, your transcripts. Now, how to spot a phishing scam? Well, scammers will often use a slight variation of the spelling of a person's name to spoof an address. So Jane Smith at the school.org might become Jane Smith at the school.com or Jane E. Smith at the school.com. Now, let me stop you there. Already, colleges don't end in .com, they end in .edu. Look at the domain name. Also, again, look for misspellings, variations of names, or URLs that do not look quite right. Now, another common component of these scams is an urgent or exceptional message telling the recipient that they must act fast or that an unprecedented deal awaits their rapid response. So any urging or pressuring language should be a red flag. Additionally, if there are links included in the message, they're going to encourage parents to hover over the link with the cursor. Now, if the link does not match the URL that appears when hovering, that is a solid indicator that the link is not legitimate. Now, how to combat phishing scams? Well, with these recent developments in mind, here are a few proactive steps that are suggested should be taken. Communicate with families and identifying only the legitimate payment portals methods for the school. For example, highlight the school that never provides a wire transfer account number, but rather uses a third-party provider. Also, encourage families to verify all payments through their legitimate school accounts. They also encourage families to carefully scrutinize any communication from the school requesting payment, and that includes the email address and any links. Encourage parents to contact the relevant school department if there is any question before making payment, and to report any suspicious activity so that the school and other parents may be aware. Also, make all parent email lists secure and take added precautions when distributing them. Also, educate staffs about scams and encourage the staff or staffs to be vigilant in safeguarding parent and student data. Again, we're talking about phishing scams, but this is based on the tuition. And again, phishing scams are designed to trick the unwary. Why? Because they want to get you to react without thinking, because you're desperate. And a weak person who doesn't know any better or ignorant, they're going to look at something that's too good to be true. And what they do with these scams, they attempt to manipulate people by exploiting vulnerabilities. In this instance, a parent accustomed to making payments online to a school may be easily victimized by the opportunity to take advantage of a special offer. So the best way to combat these kinds of scams is to communicate with families and staff proactively to help familiarize them with the dangers presented while taking added precautions to secure email lists. Now, again, when it comes to tuition, even when tuition is legitimate, I still believe a lot of it is a scam. It's business. A number of these professors don't care about the students. They're there to make a buck. Yes, college is supposed to be of higher learning. My experience with college students is they come out dumber than they were when they went in. Many of them, because of some affirmative action, DEI, whatever you want to call it, they're trying to make everybody inclusive, but you can't include everybody. That's the problem. College is not for everybody. Some people can work with their hands. Working with your hands isn't for everybody. Bottom line is, there is no equity in the world. There isn't. Now, is there discrimination out there? Well, everybody gets discriminated. It's not just based on race. The bottom line is this. You can't force inclusion. You can't enforce equity. Here's what you have to do. Yeah, there are things that are unfair. You have to go about different ways of utilizing the system, because you come from an area where you haven't had the education. Well, you can pick up some education in the military. It's another way to save money. Utilize your GI Bill. This is how you keep these colleges from shaking you down. Now I'm gonna go in there and let's talk about some real scams. Let's go to some videos here. And I got lots of videos here. Let's go to this one here. Let me share, turn my screen on, and let's go to this one. Fair use.
So what do you think of Thomas Sowell?
I actually really like him. I bought his book, Basic Economics.
Great.
He's one of the first economists.
Do they teach it here?
Not yet, but also.
Okay, so now you're proving my point. If you're studying economics and they're not teaching Thomas Sowell, you're not getting an education, you're getting an indoctrination.
Well,
and
no.
you're being scammed.
Okay.
Milton Friedman, do they teach Milton Friedman here?
No, but I'm aware of him.
Okay. Ludwig von Mises.
I'm aware of him, but no.
Murray Rothbard, hold on.
No.
F.A. Hayek.
No.
Frederick Bastiat.
No.
Then what are they teaching you?
I'm just curious about your stance on college as a scam, because I feel like, according to the Hamilton Institute, people who get bachelor degrees over a total lifetime earnings will earn of over $1 million more than those who don't. And also, I feel like college is an important place for people to like go learn valuable life lessons. And also, it's good to have like a balanced society, because then you're going to get artists, you're also going to get architectures, you're going to get engineers, you're going to get all sorts of different people that we need in society. Because, like, what's the point in living if we don't have writers or artists? You know.
That's a good question. I think the concept of college is a good thing. And I honestly think most people believe that the concept of college is a good thing. But when you start looking at the numbers of people who graduate,
And to get this brother subscribed to his channel, Fair Use. Well, I'm going to see how he is. Sounds like a small channel, but he's like me. He's talking about the scam of college. And I know it seems all over the place in this video, but the small scams end up being very big because you have to pay tuition. So the big picture is the tuition scam. Fair use, fair use. Keep going.
and don't use their degrees, and you start looking at how many people go to college just random, they pick a random school based off of where my friends going or what college has the best parties and so, or they look at the people who are in college who don't really understand as much as they should, then it becomes more questionable. But I'm gonna let Charlie Kirk answer this. Let's see what he says.
So I just want to get your take on that.
The question is, did the best writers learn to write in college? Probably not. No. The best writers are gifted writing, and they learn to write by writing. And I would just argue that this kind of holistic view you get, for example, what are you studying? Can I ask?
Economics.
Okay, so what do you think of Thomas Sowell?
I actually really like him. I bought his book, Basic Economics.
Great.
He's one of the first economists I ever
Do they
really
teach
looked
it
at.
here?
Not yet, but also I've only been
Okay,
for like
so now
1
you're proving
year.
my point. If you're studying economics and they're not teaching Thomas Sowell, you're not getting an education, you're getting an indoctrination. And you're
no.
being scammed.
Okay.
Milton Friedman, do they teach Milton Friedman here?
No, but I'm aware of him.
Okay, Ludwig von Mises.
I'm aware of him, but no.
Murray Rothbard, hold on.
No.
F.A. Hayek.
Oh shoot.
No.
Frederick Bastiat.
No.
Then what are they teaching you? You know what? You know what? At first, I was gonna say, you know what? Maybe they don't teach Thomas Sowell. Maybe that's just one person they left out. But Charlie Kirk just named like 10 people that they don't teach. I know it wasn't literally 10, but he just named all these people.
Heck, when I was in college, they didn't teach me about Malcolm X. I had to find that out in the 1990s. All they taught me about was Martin Luther King. And I went to an HBCU. Yeah, I heard a little bit about Marcus Garvey, and yeah, I heard of the Black Panthers. And heck, at that time when I went to college, Martin Luther King, his birthday, and that was really promoted by Stevie Wonder back in 1980. His birthday was young as a national holiday. But the bottom line is, I'm giving you all the big picture, and it deals mostly with the tuition, but it's these other scams. And I'm going to repeat that. It's these other scams, what they're teaching you, that have an effect on the tuition, because you're really paying a lot of money. Some bullshit. Fair use. Let's continue.
And you said that they didn't teach you about any of them. So realistically, what are they teaching you? Jesus.
You're not getting economics education, you're getting an indoctrination. You should know every single, it's not your fault, but what you're paying for or going into debt for is not a real economic education. Those are the people that.
His brother's name is LFK Jojo. Subscribe to his channel, LFK Jojo. And I'm using your video, brother. It's got good information. Don't strike me down. I just had to use this to show everybody, particularly more blacks, how college is a scam, not just through teaching, but through tuition. Fair use. Let's continue.
theorized about free markets, which is a legitimate school of thinking, monetarism, private property rights, and the fact that I'm not criticizing you, I'm criticizing the institution that's failing you, that you don't know what these people believe and you're not being taught that rigorously, proves my point that college is a scam.
Yeah, but again, I've only been here like a semester and a half, so.
But what do you know who John Maynard Keynes is?
Heard of him. Actually,
Okay.
you did read about him a little bit.
Okay, so you read about John Maynard Keynes, but
In
you
class.
were Keynes.
Yeah,
And the problem is, he said he's been in college for a semester and a half. And what he said, the reason I bring this up is because he prefaced it by saying, well, I've only. A semester and a half is about 8 months, 7 months if we're being conservative. So you were here for 7 months, probably more than that. And you don't know any of these people? 7 months? And the reason I'm bringing this up is because most of the time about your first year in college. Since I'm an engineering major, it makes a little more sense because our first year, we still have to take classes that we don't need, but you take a lot of your early science classes, a lot of your early math classes, and this is important for the future of engineering because there's a lot of science, there's a lot of math, and there's a lot of theoretical things that you need to know or at least know they exist. But as an economics major, you would think they would at least teach you the names of these people your first semester. Hey guys, we're not going to go too much in detail, but maybe you should know who this person is. Maybe you should know who these people are, but you don't know any of them. You kind of heard of one after being in college for 7 months? What have you done?
This guy wasted his money. This goes back into tuition. Wasted money and learned nothing. Now, even as an engineer, now this brother talks about engineering. I told him too. Yeah, there's a lot of math and theory, but there's application involved as well. There's internships. So that's why I disagree with him when it comes to the engineering. If you can't take the concepts of theory and apply them, then engineering is no good. That's a fact. Because I'm a real engineer. I went to school for engineering. Not just on the baccalaureate, but on the master's level. Fair use. Let's continue.
In one semester in college is about 10 bands. $10,000 if you don't know what band stands for. It's a lot of money. So you spent $10,000 and you don't know anything about your major. That is a problem.
Class, 11
Yeah, okay.
class.
Right, so that's my point, is that they'll teach you Keynes, but they won't teach you one out of the 7 people that I mentioned of Bastiat, Hayek, von Mises, Rothbard, Sol, or Friedman. And that proves my point, which is that it's all demand side. It's all one picture of an economic argument that is not the complete picture of what, now maybe later on you'll get a supply side, economics teacher here, but this idea that you go to college to kind of get your worldview liberated, yet you get your worldview altered, to be perfectly honest. Secondly, to your point of earnings over a period of time, it matters completely and solely on what you study.
Yeah.
If you study the liberal arts, even after 10 years, study came out yesterday, 16 lowest paid majors happen to be some of the highest majors that people actually go and study, which is liberal arts, sociology. God bless people that do that stuff, I suppose. But you're also filled with all of the woke rubbish that is infecting our society. And so I think you look at that across the board, you say, what am I exactly?
I always wondered what people who went to college, actually, I know why people pick these majors. They pick it because of passion. And you can't really fault them because when they're 17, 18, that's what you're taught when you're in high school. Pick what you want to do. People say, oh, I'm going to make.
Or they pick these majors because they're pretty easy. It's not much math and science involved with these majors. And also, some people may utilize these majors to get into law school. But remember, you have a lot of degrees in these humanities and social science and even English majors. Some people want to be journalists. They're all saturated at the baccalaureate level. So guess what? You got to kick out more money on a master's level. And sometimes on a doctorate level. And once you finish all that education and you've been indoctrinated, you have a whole lot of debt. I mean, a whole lot of debt. That is well into the 6 figures. hear everybody talk about six figures on, particularly on black YouTube, especially the black females. Well, I guarantee them, they went to school for some of these majors. They got a whole lot of six-figure debt. Let's continue.
Major in this because I like science, or I like whatever you like. I don't know. That's just an example. But after going through college for 4 years and even learning from a few of my mentors, my parents, if you do something long enough, you're going to get used to it regardless. Whether you pick engineering, whether you pick aeronautical engineering, whether you pick anything, you're going to get used to it. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because when you're 17, 18, what you like, for one, is going to change. For two, you're going to get used to anything you do. So it will go from this heavenly bliss of loving this thing to this is my everyday job. And there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, but it becomes something wrong when you realize I have to depend on this to pay my bills. If I want to start a family, it's entirely dependent on how much this job pays me. Then you're not going to like it as much. So if I was giving advice to young people going to college, I would say don't necessarily pursue your hobby. And I wouldn't say that to be wholehearted. I'm not telling people you can't pursue your hobby. I'm saying that just picking a major based off of your hobby is a bad idea. Because you love your hobby. Your job is your job. You don't want your hobby to be your job if it's not paying you a livable wage, which a lot of people who graduate college are not being paid. Anyways, I'm going to end this here. Well, actually, it's a little bit left, so let's finish this out.
Exactly doing here? Why am I going $100,000 in debt to go learn that men can give birth?
Well, that was the video. If you have any suggestions for me, comment down below. Have a fun day, and I'll see you next time.
You heard it from that young brother. And of course, me said some of the things I said. There are other alternatives. I said, when it comes to college, keeping your tuition down. Can't get the scholarships. You don't want to do loans. Yes, you might be able to, and see what you have to understand too. If you make a decent amount of money, or your family makes a decent amount of money, and you're going to go apply for financial aid, your estimate family contribution, known as your EFC, you got to look poor. See, the person who looks poor is going to get the most. But the bottom line is, generally, depending on what school you go to, let's say you get $10,000 for a Pell Grant. Well, that $10,000 is going to cover you for each semester. So you might have tuition that's $15,000. You get $5,000 for this one semester. It might be $15,000 per semester, which is going to equal $30,000 a year. So you may get the Pell Grant. You can only use half for one semester and half for the other. Then you're going to have to go get some loans. If you can't get scholarships, well, alternatives to that, again, the military. And the good thing about the military, there's schools out there that'll take some credits. If you get a job, particularly if you go in the Navy, get a certain amount of credit based on the rank you make. You know, I'm an advocate of going to a community college. And then you have to pick something worthwhile. And if you're going to school, just like Charlie Kirk said in that video, for passion, you're not going to make any money. Learn to work with your hands. That's where the community colleges come into play. Let's continue. Fair use.
Wix gives you the power of AI to build the website you need. With full business.
A new type of scam targets college students and recent graduates looking to land a job.
Scammers are posing as job recruiters and using sophisticated techniques to get students to turn over personal and even banking information. Joining us now with what to look out for is Abe Scar, the director of Illinois Public Interest Research Group. Good morning.
Good morning.
So one of the warnings is an interview by text or online. How does that work? I can't imagine doing an interview on text, but apparently this is working for somebody.
Well, yeah, you may not imagine it, but for a college student who's new to the job market and doesn't know what to expect and is really hungry for a job, they may not want to turn down the offer. And so, yes, some of these scammers are asking people to interview by text, email, or online chat only, and that's definitely a red flag. Maybe a scam.
How are they reaching out? Is it through, like, some of these job boards or networking sites? And how do you know which ones are a little fishy?
They're using all the same techniques that legitimate hiring companies would use. They're using job boards. They're now, one of the new things is they're pretending to have referrals from somebody the job seeker may know, like a professor or a dean at a school. And yeah,
so you might get an email from what looks like your professor's email and saying,
maybe your professor's email or just a reference saying, your referred us, said you'd be a good candidate. And so, yeah, somebody who doesn't know better and is looking for a job and hungry for a job may want to take that opportunity. And unfortunately, they could be taken in by a scammer.
All right, I know that this sounds obvious, but I also know that this generation does not like to talk to people on the telephone. But you say you should look up the company and then call them directly.
That's definitely one of the things you can do, call them directly, or if it's from a referral, call that person that the referral purportedly came to. You can also look up the name of the person who's reaching out to you online with a search, the scam or review or complaint, just to see what other people are saying about it. All these are things you can do to make sure that it's legitimate and not a scam.
In addition to being left high and dry, it's not a real job. The reason behind this is sometimes you'll get these students to fill out an application, and with that information, they can steal the student's identity?
Yeah, the things they're going for are credit card information, banking account information, or any personal identifying information. Oftentimes they'll say they may send you a check to cover some expenses from working at home, but then ask you to send some money somewhere else. The check they send you is a bad check and is going to bounce, but then you've sent along some money to someone else and you're out some money. These are the things they're going for. So job seekers should know you should never give up personally identifiable information, credit cards, or banking account information before you're hired. That's just not something a legitimate company would ask somebody for in the job hiring process.
All right. Well, for more information, you can check out pirg.org or check out ftc.gov/job scams. Abe, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Now that video talked more about job scams, which I did a video a long time ago on job scams. But the bottom line is you want to avoid all that. And if you do proper research, you don't get into scams. Now I am going to, let's see. Let me try to find a decent video. This is the one you need to see. It's the last one I'm gonna put up there, but this sums up everything I've said. College tuition, fair use, fair use.
To be free and flexible and creative was really essential to what I wanted to make, and I didn't find a platform that did that.
We got a problem, Houston. Cost of colleges. I mean, imagine the aliens coming down to Earth now, they'd be like, what? What? You go to some beautiful country club kind of looking place, and you go to these things called classrooms, and you spend that much money to get a degree. How much? Well, New York Times says now Vanderbilt has topped $100,000 a year for total expenses for this fall's freshman class. $100,000, and they're not alone. A lot of these schools cost that much, and at Vanderbilt, a lot of people get financial aid and all that. Roughly 2,000 students are actually going to pay over $100,000 to attend for a year. Average private college now, including all the stuff, somewhere around $55,000. State school average about $25,000. This is bonkers, bonkers, bonkers. And how does this happen? How did we end up with college costs escalating so much? You know, I think about something I've shared with you before, that I went to a private college, and when my dad lost his job and I became a night student, I didn't change schools. I stayed there because the tuition was such that I could work full time at a job I could get as a teenager and earn enough to pay my college tuition. Today, there's no chance, unless I was a hip hop star or a sports star or was engaged in some kind of illegal activity, there's no way a college student could earn enough to pay the cost of college at a private or pretty much a public college. And the problem to me is clear as what you would learn if you stayed awake in a freshman economics class at one of those colleges. The problem is the lack of market discipline because of unlimited student loan availability. I mean, we got all these arguments going on about president wanting to forgive these loans and forgive those, and how many votes is that going to get him in November and all that stuff. I mean, really, the problem goes back to the base, the source. Why are we as taxpayers funding these college campuses with an unlimited amount of money with no controls on it at all? I can go borrow as much money as I want to go to college. So let's think about it. So you do that. What do you do to a college? You make it like a monopoly power company. Oh, well, we ran up extra expenses, so we're just going to charge more money. And people in that state have no choice. They're just going to pay it. College campuses have become that because no matter what it costs, net of whatever mumbo jumbo they do with aid packages, all the rest can just be borrowed, and there's no incentive, none in the marketplace for a college to control costs. This is the problem. We thought as a society we were doing a good thing by making it possible for people to borrow to go to college without recognizing what the economic consequences are in the marketplace when you do that. Because if colleges were having to figure out how to make a go of it without this huge, huge fuel of student loan money coming into the system, they would run different kinds of operations. You know, I know going around with my kids to tour colleges, both state colleges and private, the tours are a riot because you go around and they're showing you the workout facilities, which are fancier at many of these campuses than any expensive private club you could join in the most expensive white-collar cities in America.
Now, what he just said, a lot of your money is going into these facilities. Brand new football stadiums, scoreboards, swimming pools. This is why college is a racket. Now, again, I just showed you the job scams from college. I just showed you the indoctrination that they're teaching you in college. And this, again, this is summing up everything I've told you about tuition and a little bit more. Fair use. Let's continue.
And having these fancy recreation centers and pools and tennis facilities. Some of them have golf courses now. I mean, come on. There's this amenities war with the dorms and all that. This is just crazy. So if I was coming out now and my dad was unemployed, and when I came up, moms didn't really work, so it was a single income household, what would I do today? What I do today is I would be in community college, or I'd be in a commuter school or something like that, and have something much more affordable. And I know that it's really cool and all to have the greatest fitness center in the history of the universe at your college, but somebody's paying for that. And guess who it ultimately is? It's you and the taxpayers. So if we want to get these college costs under control, we have to heavily curtail, in fact, eliminate most federal subsidized student loans, period. Now, if you don't like anything I just said, remember on Friday, we have Clark Stinks, and you can do your post on Clark Stinks and let me know where I'm missing part of the bigger picture. But why do you think so many American families are turning against college? Because they're trying to figure out where's the benefit of all this cost? And it's a good question, because I was seeing in this article that the Times did about Vanderbilt that people who get a liberal arts degree, oh my goodness, the income they can earn is a tiny fraction of what the 4 years would cost at over $400,000. I mean, if somebody gets an engineering degree, they're going to be okay. They get computer science, they're going to be okay, but you get liberal arts. It's a crazy, crazy math puzzle. It's not very good.
Well, there you have it. He explained it very thoroughly. But I mentioned most of those situations as well. And to sum everything up with this video, again, you learn about how you're targeted after school for jobs. And that's because the colleges, they're not really teaching a lot of interview skills. They're not teaching entrepreneurship skills. A number of them these days, they're not teaching hands-on skills unless you go get something like an engineering technology degree. Then you're going to learn some laboratory schools. But again, you're going to get all the skills if you go to a community college. It's more cost effective. Yes, you're not going to have all the lively entertainment on the campus, but you don't need that. You're going to school to learn. Now, when you go to college in your third and fourth year after you got your associate's degree, then you can get into that, but you'll be more mature. And guess what? You're not going to spend as much money to go to school, and you're going to get more of a return on your investment. That's what I'm talking about when it comes to college. And then once you take all the bull crap courses and you get in your major and you take some internships, or even if you're going to a community college, let's say you want to be a civil engineer. I'm just going to give you an example. Work at a testing firm, work as an inspector, work as an intern. You can actually work for a company, even instead of being an intern, like I did. Go to a community college, get all the courses you need. You're already getting some hands-on training, and you're already working. And sometimes your company will pay for it. As long as what you're going for relates to the job, your company will pay for it through what they call tuition assistance. Now, tuition assistance can be a little bit iffy too, because there's a cap on that too. And then you have to get A's, B's, or C's in order to get the benefit. So when it comes to college, what you have to understand is what is the return on investment? Because there are a number of individuals out here who have gone to college, and again, their minds are warped. And the ones who get their PhD, some of them, it's an ego trip. They don't have any common sense. They're only taught theory, memory. And even if you study the subjects, you gotta look at how much money you're paying. And then something else. So many alumni are putting money into the college. And these colleges, they get a lot of grants, a lot of donations. But you do have to eliminate some of these subsidies, encourage payment plans, but also encourage other interests like hands-on. College isn't made for everybody. And in the 90s, we were told that if you go to college, you get a degree, you get a job. Well, who wants to work for somebody the rest of their lives? Because yes, you'll make money. You'll get a job that you're going to be comfortable in. But even though you have that job, now some people, everybody can't be an entrepreneur. But if you go to a company, you might be stuck in that one job for a while. Now, some people want that, some people don't. Now, yes, over the long run, you make more money with college degrees than somebody who doesn't. But you can get that person who has a specialized skill, who can get a degree person working for them, and they have no debt. The bottom line is, you go to college, you have to think about this. What do you want to do when you go to college? How much are you willing to spend? And then you have to ask yourself, is it really worth the headache? Especially now with all this political correctness and the skyrocketed tuition. Because you have to remember this. It's your future. It's your choice. There's a lot of people out here who go to college and don't graduate. And the ones that don't graduate, they come out after their first year, they still have debt. And remember, these loans can affect your credit. Because if you're out for a long period of time, I believe 6 months, they're going to start sending you information. Or if you go from, let's say, you've already gone to college and you're still paying loans and you go back, the moment you drop down below half credit, which is 6 credits is half credit, drop down to 5 credits, now they're going to send that information back to you to pay that loan back. That's what they're going to do. I know, I've seen it. You have to, if you go back to college after you already have a degree, you got to take 6 credits or more for deferment. But even if you get a deferment, those loan payments are still there. They're not going away. And yeah, you have all this loan reimbursement. They're not going to, you owe $230,000. Yeah, $20,000 will help a little bit, but you still owe a lot of money. And a lot of jobs out here, wages not really paying as much as they used to. And you might think they are, but the cost of living is much higher than it used to be. Heck, I remember going and get a loaf of bread for 55 cents or $1. They paid $3.29. I mean, gas back in the late 90s, 78 cents. Now, some areas it's $4. And also something else that wasn't mentioned, where you live. Okay. If you live in an area where the cost of living is pretty good, and you have a private college, because sometimes you can get away with private colleges too. But a lot of the private colleges, unless they're like, he mentioned Vanderbilt, unless you have like a Cornell, which is an Ivy League school or something like that, a lot of your private schools are your liberal arts schools too. Unless they have engineering programs. Some of them do, some of them don't. It costs a lot of money to run an engineering program. It does. So you might be forced to go to like here in Indiana, Earlham College, which is in Richmond, Indiana, and DePaul, not DePaul University in Chicago, DePaul, DEPAUW, which is in, I believe it's in Greencastle, Indiana, and then Wabash College. I go to those colleges, and those colleges are private colleges, but they're very, very, very expensive. So what I'm just telling you all to do is watch the tuition, go to college, because tuition is a scam. And what you just heard from me tonight, you heard 3 different videos, but if you tie everything in, it goes right back into the last video that I talked about, and it's tuition. Because in the long run, I'm not saying education isn't a good source. There are different ways you can get it. But what I am telling you is, if you want to keep from paying high costs, seek other alternative forms, such as the military, community colleges, some scholarships. And if you have a job, you can use some of your monies, because at the end of the year, if you file taxes, I believe you get something back for your taxes too. Form 8804, it's some type of tuition expense form that might help you get some tax money back as well. I believe it could lower your standard deduction, because in order to actually take itemized deductions, your itemized deductions must be greater than your standard deductions. But in the end, when it comes to college degree is no good without getting a return on investment for your education. In other words, you go to college, you end up with a lot of debt. Guess what? Not only have you been scammed, but you will always be a slave. And this is where you get the old adage: you will be working till you die. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. If you like what I just presented, comment, share, and subscribe. And if you're looking for some STEM content, check out second channel, the QCIS channel, which stands for Quality Control Inspection Services Incorporated, which is my business logo. And on that channel, you get a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. And I will continue to do videos every Thursday. They'll be posted just like I'm gonna post this video up tonight. So once I record all my videos on the 401 Talk Zone radio show and the QCIS channel, you're going to find those videos posted on to my Twitter page. Now, since the QCIS channel is an educational channel, I also post that channel on my LinkedIn page. And again, folks, if you're coming to my LinkedIn page, if you're not talking to me about STEM, I don't care if you want to connect, I will not connect with you. You look at my videos, comment on my videos, support my channel up on LinkedIn. Everything else is not for discussion. If you don't have my phone number, I don't want to talk to you. My LinkedIn page is for the educational content for people who are interested in STEM. And putting that aside, I will say this: in the end, always be blessed for what you have. Don't worry about what you don't have. Always know that the sun rises in the east, it sets in the west. If it doesn't apply, let it fly. But if the shoe fits, wear it. If you don't like the shoe, change it. Once again, thank you for listening to this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. Till next time, My name is Leon Jones. I want you all to have a wonderful and gracious evening. God bless you. I'm out.